So the embargo's finally lifted and we can now talk about these, the new iLoud Precision Mark IIs. These are the Precision 5 Mark IIs. There's also the larger Precision 6 and Precision MKII Mark IIs in the series. And these are not cheap, but they are very much a high-end studio near-field monitor. They really do sound like that, trust me. Okay, now, a lot to look at in this review. You know I do in-depth reviews. The speakers themselves have a lot of features around at the back. There's a calibration mic that comes with the speakers. We need to look at the calibration process. There's a software you use with them. We're going to look at the software as well. So a lot of stuff to look at. And on top of that, we're going to do a listening test as well, where we play a variety of program material from the speakers recorded onto a pair of mics, and then compare that to the sound of the same program material played back from a couple of other speakers of the same size. Not as a scientific experiment, but, you know, just to give you a ballpark sense of how they behave tonally. So there's a lot to look at. So what I'm going to do, straight out the gate now, I'm going to give you my summary of these at the start, okay? And this is my summary. When you first fire these up, you're going to be listening to them vanilla without the room calibration or any EQ applied, etc. And as soon as you start playing your favourite speaker test material through them, you know, like a smile comes onto your face and you're like, ooh, these are really nice. And they've got that real, you know, high-end, near-field pro studio monitor sound, yeah? Which, you know, it reminds you of speakers from the usual suspects without naming names. At the bass end, they are ported. Some people say that ported speakers are a bit hyped in the bass. Certainly they go down low enough. I think they're down about 3 or 4 dB at 45 or 47 hertz. You can look in the description for that detail. But suffice to say that with these Precision 5s, you won't need a sub to work with these. It is a hyped ported bass end, but it's tight and controlled, and it goes down really low. The mid-range on them, they've got this really nice mid-range detail, which is obviously a thing, and a pro quality near field really needs that, and it's been a thing ever since the NS10, right? So with these, you get a really nice detailed mid-range. It's like having a pair of NS10s, but with all the hard, rough, jagged edges smoothed off. Obviously, these are a lot finer than an NS10. And with these, that really nice mid-range detail extends all the way down into the low mids, which you obviously don't get with an NS10. On board, custom proprietary DSP 96K electronics, an electronic crossover, custom built amps, and a newly designed tweeter. The combination of all that means they're very efficient in terms of phase. All the frequencies arriving at your listening position at the same time. And the tweeter is wonderfully dynamic. When you listen to your favourite speaker test material, you notice that the high frequency content has wonderful dynamic movement, but in no way does the tweeter go, hey, listen to me, pay attention to me. You know, it's nicely balanced, it's in there and it's smooth, but wonderfully dynamic. They're a really good tweeter. That is my summary of these straight out the gate. Let's check them out. So around at the back, we've got the power input and the on-off switch. And then here we've got the signal input, which can be balanced XLR or 1/4 inch jack, balanced or unbalanced. And above that is the level control for the monitor. Okay, next up, there's a USB connector and a mic input here labelled ARC Mic In. You can calibrate these speakers using the included ARC calibration mic, either taking a more detailed set of calibration measurements via the ARC software running on your computer, which is connected to the speakers via USB, or you can connect the calibration microphone directly to the monitors and take a less detailed set of calibration measurements via that socket there. We'll look at that a bit further on into the review. Now, above the mic input, there's a pair of little mini jack sockets labelled control, and you use those with the optional 4-button remote, which comes with a very long lead, which is about 2 meters long. And you plug that remote into the in socket of either speaker. So I'll plug it in here. Okay, that's now active. And then you plug the included connecting lead, which is also about 2 meters long, from the output of that speaker with the remote plugged into it, into the input of the next speaker. And any subsequent speakers you have, you connect those one after the other in series using more of these cables. When they're all connected up, the 4-button remote will control all speakers connected serially by these cables. Okay, and that just leaves the buttons up here. You can turn the auto standby on and off with this button. The cal preset button, we'll look at that in a second. And then these three allow you to tailor the EQ curve of the monitor with different types of EQ. So you've got a high pass here that cycles around off 35 Hz, 50 Hz, 65 Hz, 80 Hz, and then back round 65 Hz, 50 Hz, 35 Hz, and off again. The low shelf at 100 Hz goes from off to plus 1.5, plus 2.5, plus 1.5 back to off, and then minus 1.5, minus 2.5, minus 1.5 and back to off again. And the high shelf at 10K does the same thing. Plus 1.5, plus 2.5, plus 1.5 and off, minus 1.5, minus 2.5, minus 1.5 and off again. The calibrate preset button now. If you decide to take the less detailed set of calibration recordings directly into the monitor's DSP via this socket, each speaker needs to take 4 calibration recordings at 4 different microphone points, which are the 4 corners of an imaginary rectangle around the listening position at head height. So you position the mic in the first calibration position, the front left of that imaginary rectangle, and connect up the mic to the first speaker, hold down the calibration button for 3 seconds, and the LED on the front of the speaker begins to gently pulse, telling you that it is in standby, waiting to make its first calibration recording. Then when you're ready to actually take the recording, you reach around the back of the speaker again and you give this button just a single dab like that. The LED on the front then begins to flash quickly, giving you 5 seconds to get out of the way of the speaker and the measuring microphone, after which the speaker emits 4 very fast filter sweeps. The speaker then flashes at the front as it calibrates and stores that recording, and if that's successful, the light on the front glows green. Then, leaving the microphone in that first calibration position at the front left of that imaginary rectangle, you move the mic to the second monitor and repeat the process to calibrate the second monitor. Then you move the mic to the second position and repeat the process for both monitors. Move the mic to the third position, repeat the process for both monitors, and then finally move the mic to the fourth calibration position and repeat the process a final time for both monitors. Now, at any point during that calibration process, if either of the speakers flashes red at the end of doing a calibration, it means something went wrong. And the best thing to do then is to reset both speakers back to factory default and begin the entire calibration process again. And to reset a speaker, you just hold down the calibrate preset and auto standby buttons together. Hold them down for 3 seconds. All the blue lights begin flashing, and when they finish flashing, that is the speaker cleared and factory reset. And then finally, once you've performed the calibration, either directly into the monitors or via the ARC-X software on your computer, the Cal preset button then allows you to cycle around 3 different settings. Flat, calibrated, or desk, which is a special EQ curve that seeks to compensate for a mixing console sitting between the monitors in the traditional meter bridge position and the listener on the other side of the console in a traditional Pro Studio setup. Okay, let's have a look at this ARC-X software now. I've got the camera angle down now so we can see the mic area. We're going to finish up with a listening test where we're going to play different program material from the monitors and record it onto this pair of mics. This pair of mics is therefore in the listening position, so I'm going to position the calibration microphone in that exact same listening position. The calibration mic is plugged into input 1 of the audio interface and phantom power is switched on, which it requires to work. The left-right output of the audio interface is plugged into the monitors left and right, and both of the monitors are plugged into the computer via USB. Okay, and you start off with this page, the layout page, and you choose your audio interface at the top here, which I've already done, and then you allocate the available iLoud Precision monitors to the different slots. So I'm going to put this monitor into the front left position. Its LED flashes on the front showing me that is indeed the left monitor, and this one in the right position, and its LED flashes showing to me that that is indeed the right monitor. Okay, we can test them. Yep, that's the left, and yep, that's the right. Okay, and incidentally, while you're here, you can use the cogwheel on either of these monitors to bring up the color control thing, and you can change the front LED to be any of these different colors like that, such as this blue, and then adjust the brightness and all the rest of it, and you can then assign that setting to both monitors like that, apply to all. Let's put it back to default white, apply to all like that. Okay, just so you can do that there. Okay, so that's done. Okay, then we go to calibrate here. Calibrate. Start measurement. Now the first thing you're presented with is this image, and if one of the monitors is not set to its 0 volume position with the rear volume control, then it will be orange like that. So if either monitor is not set to 0, you go around to the back and adjust the volume control back to the 0 position, which is really easy to do because it's very heavily center detented, so it's easy, look, click, and it's back to 0. Okay, that's that. And then we go to continue. Boom. Begin check. Is that the left monitor? Yes. Is that the right monitor? Yes. Continue. Now we are going to use the included black ARC MEMS mic. Otherwise you could choose either of the previous ARC mics from IK Multimedia or any other third-party mic, and you can load a calibration file for that mic. Okay, and then continue. So there's our audio interface, sample rate 48K. We're receiving on input 1, and here's the input level, and that flickering of the input level you can see is my voice being picked up by the calibration mic. Like that. So let's play the test. Here we go. And if the test is successful, then the continue button here becomes active. Otherwise you have to adjust levels and redo the test until it falls into the correct range. Okay, next, what sort of room are we doing the calibration for? A standard project studio where the monitors are on a bench or desktop like that and we're sitting pretty close. A standard sort of recording studio with a console between the monitors and the sitting position. The same console studio type thing but with a wider center sweet spot. A studio with a measurement taken to allow a good sound both at the front engineer's position and for the client listening position at the back, or for a home theatre. So we are going to go with the project studio. And you can now choose the accuracy of the calibration. Minimal is 1 recording. Basic is 3 recordings. Standard, the one we're going to go with, is 7 recordings at these different calibration recording points. And if we then go to advanced, you still see the same 7 calibration recording points, but look down here, it says measurement points 21. If you decide to go for the advanced calibration, you'll be asked to make the 7 calibration recordings at these 7 positions, but at 3 different vertical heights, giving you a total of 21 calibration record points. Okay, so we're going to go with standard. Now finally, there's a countdown. That's how long you get from when you activate each calibration point recording to get out of the way of the speakers and the mic before the calibration recording process takes place for that position. I'm going to leave it in the default 5 seconds. And we're ready to go. So continue. Right, point 1, which is right smack bang in the middle. That is indeed where the mic is. It is right in the middle like that. So we are going to hit that and we'll get a 5-second countdown, and then it will give a blast of 4 very fast filter sweeps on each speaker. Countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. And that's position 1 done. Now we move to position 2, which is same center position away from the speakers, but across to the left like that. Here we go. That's point 3. That's okay, point 3. Forward, 1, forward, to the left. Okay, so position 5 next. And that's position 6. Centre, back, to the left. We go. And finally 7. And that is all done. Go to Edit. Okay, and here's the results, and the blue line is the pre-calibration actual recording of the room's response, and the coral pink line is the post-calibration correction for that. And if you look, there was a couple of really big bumps in the room here down at the base end, and this enormous dip just below 200 Hertz in the room's curve, and the pink calibration line has sort of evened that out. Okay, and that's the default curve. You can also put it into a more flat curve, and there are some other target modes here as well to compensate for different types of basic EQ curves. Okay, additionally to that, if you look along here, there are peak bands and shelf bands. You can use those in default Q or a tighter or broader Q to actually manually correct the curve, to tweak it to your taste further if you want to do that. And then without getting into this on too high a level, finally there is all these different voice modes you can load up, and these are emulations of different types of speakers. So I'll just give you a little taste of some of those. Hang on. And as you can hear, some of those are subtly different and some of those are very different. And they're emulations of different types of speakers, including TV speakers, mobile device speakers. One of the emulations is for a yellow speaker, meaning the KRK, Rokit, presumably the Rokit 5, and then there are some emulations of the Yamaha NS10 and other speakers beside. Okay, also you can save and load presets that you've created anytime here. And finally, you can program the remote from the ArcX software as well. The 4-button remote, as it is out of the box, button number 1 is the default corrected curve for the speakers based on the room. Then button number 2 and 3 are 2 of the speaker emulations, not quite sure what these represent. But button number 4 is a white 90s, which is the NS10M Studio, the later revision of the NS10M. So these can be changed any time with the buttons here. Just right click on any button, and any of the buttons can be assigned to be the mute or dim button, and you can load any of those speaker voice emulation curves into any of those button positions. Default comfort and the high frequency presence, any of the studio monitor emulations, any of the hi-fi emulations, or any of the multimedia emulations can be loaded into those 4 buttons. So you can program this any way you want for use when you're sitting in the listening position. Okay, and that's, without going into it in too much detail, is the ArcX software. Now with the new Mark II iLoud Precisions, every single one of the speakers in the range has a pair of hex mounting bolts in the top of the cabinet and the bottom of the cabinet. And those to facilitate the use of these steel mounting brackets. And they're a serious bit of steel, this. That's at least 3.5mm thick. Now the way it works is, with the 2 bolts, this is the pivot hole and these are the arc holes. So if the bracket is this way up, this bolt will go into the pivot hole. Or you can have it the other way around and this bolt will go into the pivot hole. So let's say we do it this way round. This bolt goes into that pivot hole like that, right? And then the second bolt, the further up this arc row of holes that it goes, the further around the bracket goes. Okay? And with the system like that, with the bracket either that way round or that way round, you can have the speaker angled at any angle on that axis that you like. Okay? The VESA type arrangement on the back here is so that you can mount the iLoud monitor series onto any proprietary wall mounting or exhibition or concert scaffold type mounting system. But of course you could use these holes to bolt this bracket directly to a wall with heavy duty wall plugs and things, yeah? And that's the mounting brackets. Okay, and I hope that video was useful to you. I gave you my summary of these speakers at the very start, but I'm just going to add a few extra thoughts now at the end. These are a high quality pair of speakers. But look, they're not ATCs or mums or something like that. But then they're not costing, you know, £7,000, £8,000, £10,000 a pair. But in their price range, they are a high quality, professional quality, really good pair of speakers. I'm reluctant to call them a pair of studio speakers because of the fact that they can be calibrated for so many professional speaker roles. So yeah, sure, you can calibrate these for use as a traditional near field in any studio environment, but you can also calibrate them for any type of exhibition or installation audio role. Of course, you can calibrate them for use in a TV film edit, you know, mini viewing theatre, whether that's a pair of them or even a surround setup. And of course, they are perfect as a solution for a full-blown surround mixing mastering setup because of the fact that every single speaker in its individual position around the room in that surround setup can be calibrated exactly for that exact position in the surround setup in the room. So they're quite unique in that way. And the fact that IK Multimedia have included a pair of mounting hex bolts in every speaker of the series now shows that they are very much pushing them as a surround solution for studio use. And they're actually doing a bundle deal on all 3 speakers in the series specifically for that purpose, yeah. Okay. Any criticism? My only criticism I can think of is the same one that people aimed at the Mark I version of these when they came out a few years ago. There's no digital input, which is kind of strange for a monitor that's got an entirely internal 96K digital DSP system that it runs off. You know, why IK Multimedia didn't choose to add a digital input, I don't know. Perhaps because they thought, well, that's more a multimedia desktop type thing. If anybody using these in a proper professional setup is going to be driving them from a proper professional audio source, you know, and maybe adding the extra electronics to facilitate that would have compromised the cabinet design in some way. Who knows what it is? But if I had to come up with a criticism, that's the only thing I can think of. No digital input, which, you know, it's not a biggie really. Okay, so there you go. The iLoud Precision Mark IIs, and these are the babies, the 5s, but no doubt the 6s and the MTMs just give you bigger and more of the same. All good stuff, no doubt. What are your comments? Let people know in the comments below. Did you like the video? Let people know in the comments below. Have you used these in the previous Mark I series? What do you think of them, etc., etc.? Let people know your thoughts in the comments, and please subscribe to the channel. More videos coming down the pipe soon as I get this room finished off. Yeah, so subscribe, comment, and I'll see you for more videos soon. Ciao.